to talk more about how awful the the Rangers are. from from Carolina, Abby Labar joining us now. Abby, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
We're good. Not as great as you, obviously. The Kings are not participating in this return to play, but the Carolina Hurricanes become the first team to advance past the qualifying rounds. Are you getting feedback from fans? Are you able to sort of connect to the fan base even in the situation that we're living through?
Oh my gosh, thank goodness for social media, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
amazing what that does for how we can communicate with everyone. And I mean, everyone's just ecstatic. Like I have not, it's been hard for me to get off of Twitter because I just love being in the conversation, and Canes fans are just so pumped, about what we just witnessed, and everyone's feeling optimistic going forward. So yeah, exciting times. Look, I'm still like, my face still hurts from like smiling for the last like 72 hours, right?
Well, the Carolina Hurricanes are the official adopted bubble team of the LA Kings fan base for multiple reasons, one of which being Justin Williams, who I imagine also is having some facial pains, mainly because he started off the first game with a fight.
Yeah, like where did that come from?
I have no idea.
I mean, that was, everyone loved Justin Williams, brings everyone together, right? Like it's not even the Kings and the Canes. Like everyone loves Justin Williams, and if you don't, then I don't know what you're doing. No, that was like the craziest thing ever. And Rod Brindmore, like, of course, that was one of the first things he was asked about after that game. And he was like, seriously, like, Justin just never ceases to amaze me. And he has perfect timing for everything, right? So, like, such a smart player. He knew that the team needed that. Like, he knew that it was the right time for that situation for him to be in. And the bench was just so fired up to see him do that. And I think that really was just the beginning of the momentum that the team carried through the rest of that series.
Now we all know. Oh,
No,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Me go? You go.
You go.
Okay, I'll go. Abby, I was gonna ask, with the broadcast kind of being spread out as it is, where you're broadcasting from, not being able to be on location where these games are happening. Does winning make it even easier to make this difficult of a thing come together? Because those 3 games, I mean, every time I tuned in, it was like you guys were having just as much as a blast as I'm sure the fans and the team were.
Oh, the team totally made it easy for us because we had plenty to talk about, right? Like after every single game, there was some sort of topic or subject or crazy thing that had happened in the previous one that gave us, plenty of things to discuss. Broadcasting from a remote location is, I have to give all the credit in the world to the Fox Sports Carolina, the producers, the whole crew. I mean, our director. It is so tough to do what they're doing, and just having to adjust to what they're getting from as far as interviews go, and highlights and packages. Like everyone's just kind of rolling with the punches. So they've done a phenomenal job behind the scenes. Mike and Tripp have done an awesome job at calling the game from the screens. Like Mike, you would never guess that he's calling the things that he's calling and the events that were happening on the ice from hundreds of miles away. Like he brings
like he's there.
Yes, he brings that same energy, and it's so awesome. And the funniest thing is Mike and Tripp are up in the broadcast booth in PNC Arena, and then Shane and I are down on the concourse. And so we can actually hear Mike and Tripp echoing through the arena from down where we're sitting on the concourse, but they can't hear us. So like they're yelling and screaming from up there, and then like we're yelling and screaming from like where we are in the concourse, like trying to see if they can hear us too. But it's just funny, like the whole dynamic of like all of us being in an empty arena, and we miss the fans so much, but it's a unique experience, and we're still trying to like create our own energy inside PNC Arena and on the broadcast. And so it's been a very unique, challenging, but awesome experience. And the Canes winning and giving us plenty to talk about makes our jobs even easier, right?
Leading that charge as far as giving you guys stuff to talk about, Sebastian Aho currently leading the league in points, if I'm not mistaken, in the bubble hockey, in the qualifying rounds.
Bubble hockey rounds.
So I was just sort of looking into Sebastian Aho because I confess I don't know enough about him, or as much as I should anyway. And it turns out he's like 5 or 6 months younger than Connor McDavid. And the fact that they're...
Well, I was going to say he just turned 23 this week or a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Connor McDavid's a January birthday, and he's like, as you mentioned, just had a birthday. Both born in '97, because we're all hurtling towards our own mortality. But Sebastian Aho, like I said, younger than Connor McDavid and more points than Connor McDavid, and his team defeated their first round opponent, who was a marginally tougher opponent than the team that Connor McDavid is currently losing to. So is Sebastian Aho better than Connor McDavid, I guess is what I'm getting around to asking?
Absolutely. I mean, of course.
Good
Any
answer.
Canes fans would agree with that, right? No, Sebastian Aho has just, he continues to surprise us every day too, right? And like, he's an elite player, but he's always been a goal scorer. There's no doubt about that. The way that he has just enhanced his game, and we saw like a prime example of that in game 2 and game 3 with the Rangers, the defensive plays he was making, and then, just how he was setting his teammates up for success. Like, you're adding all those elements, and he's growing his game in all phases, I guess you would say. And it's totally making him, he's exceeding his expectations as well. Like, that's an elite player right there. And so it's so exciting to see him grow, and just like the short amount of time that he's done so much in, it's going to be so exciting to continue to see that. That's for sure.
The chat is agreeing with you, Jesse. Bailey says, that's one way to look at it, Jesse. With the face. And then Pinky says, Aho is so fun to watch. And Aperture says, Aho just keeps getting better.
So awesome.
Is there anyone else that's kind of impressed you during the small sample size that you've seen so far? What player has just jumped out at you and said, holy smokes, I was not expecting that from them this early on?
Okay, well, you could say Andrei Svechnikov, but that's not a surprising thing. We knew he was going to continue to do unbelievable
waiting for
things.
it. Yeah.
For the team. Yeah, exactly. I mean, from a young player standpoint, those two, and then Tavo continues to be a phenomenal player for the Canes. That whole top line is just so dangerous. And all three of them together is just, it's unbelievable to watch. Tavo, and we talked about this on the pregame show recently. We think he's not underrated. I wouldn't say underrated, but I don't think the league talks about him enough. Kind of like Jacob Slavin, right? Like Jacob's in the same boat as Tavo is, as far as they're just such great elite players, and they have so much more left in their careers. And it's only a matter of time before they get the recognition that they deserve. So Jacob's awesome, all around great guy. I think he's another one of those that it's not surprising, but he just continues to grow and succeed and do awesome things. And he has a lot in front of him as well.
One of the great contradictions in my life is that I'm constantly telling people never to fall in love with a backup goalie. That's not what they're there for. They're going to leave and they're going to break your heart. And yet I love James Reimer. I'm convinced that if he and Jonathan Quick had switched places, I feel like Reimer would have had Quick's career and Quick would have had Reimer's career. That's probably crazy, but nonetheless, one of the funniest things I saw on Twitter was somebody congratulating Reimer for winning a playoff series in Toronto. He was out there for game 3, obviously. What's the goaltending situation in Carolina? Obviously, Mrazek carries the bulk of the minutes, but do they have faith and trust in Reimer?
Oh, absolutely. And Rod actually said it this morning or after the first game. I can't remember when he said it, but James Reimer had a phenomenal training camp and obviously had an amazing regular season as well. And so it's never really been, and we were kind of in this situation last year headed into the playoffs where there was never really a number 1 and a number 2, right? Like we were lucky last year. Curtis McElhinney did a great job for us as well, where it was just kind of an A and, I mean, not even an A and B, like you just having 2 guys that you could trust go in there. And James Reimer has absolutely proven that as well. He said before the New York Rangers series even started, like, because Reimer had such a good camp as well as Mrazek did, he was still trying to figure out who was going to be the starter, whether it was going to be Mrazek or Reimer for game 1. So he told us before that series started, we would definitely count on seeing both of them. And of course, Rod wasn't going to, we talked about this on the broadcast. Rod values all of his players so much, and he wants everyone to feel that they're valued. And so I think with the goaltenders, that's especially important because you don't have that backup in the starter. He makes them both feel like they're, valuable enough to be starters because they are. James Reimer's awesome. And so it's good for the team it's good that both of them had those great performances, and now they can continue to move forward with that same confidence. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you guys saw it. Like it's a great situation to be in, that's for sure.
It's a good problem to have, Jesse. Not being able or
Okay.
not having to choose between one or the other. Just knowing you could roll with either and have a great result.
I was listening to, I think it was Leafs Lunch of all things, and they were talking about Rod Brindmore and the sort of paradox of we're moving into this era where coaches have to be less dictatorial and they can't be as mean as they used to. Mean seems like such a silly word to apply, but they can't. The industry is changing, and yet Rod Brindmore seems to be cut of an older cloth, right? He seems to be that sort of tough, demanding coach that isn't supposed to, appeal to millennials or whatever these days. What is it about Rod Brindmore that has this team so unified and playing like a unit?
I think he's not, I guess, tough in a sense of, I've never heard him get super angry. I'm sure the team would obviously disagree, but
Sure.
You can tell when you never want to disappoint him. And I think that's the biggest thing is the players respect Rod so much because he's a player's coach. Like his credentials, just like, that's all he needs, right, to be a good coach, because they have seen what he's done in this league. And they respect him so much for that. And, everyone wants to be like Rod Brindmore. Everyone wants to do what he did and accomplish the things he did. And so the players, they'll say, when Rod's disappointed, like it hurts all of them because of that level of respect they have for him in the locker room. And I think that's, just kind of like how we talked about with Justin Williams, it's a lead by example type thing, right? And so it's great to have two guys that can lead by that example. And, Jordan as well, just in that locker room. And so you never hear a bad thing about Rod, like ever. And you'll hear that from everybody, all the players, all the new players that come in. And it's just because he is so well respected in this league. And I think that's what makes him such a good coach, because he has that resume and he knows how to relate to the players. So I think that's huge.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, not just the players. I feel like staff, members of the media, he's just so well respected and so highly regarded. And someone else that might be well respected and highly regarded would be Stormy. And Bailey, our mascot, was wondering how's Stormy doing, just real quick before Jesse had anything else to say. I had to sneak that in there. How's Stormy doing?
Okay, Bailey. Hello, Bailey, by the way. I love Bailey's the only other mascot that follows me on Twitter. So shout out. I was so excited when I got that follow. Stormy actually showed up at our apartment recently, and I was not even there.
What?
I was not. Yeah, I'm so upset. Stormy showed up and visited Sarah, and apparently I was supposed to be there, and Sarah didn't give me the heads up. So I haven't seen Stormy in a while, but I totally could have gotten. I think he left us some gifts, but
that's tragic. That's an absolute. That's a tragedy.
I know, right? I was so upset.
Oh my God. Go ahead, Jesse.
That's all right. This question is just as silly. So you're the first team to advance past the qualifying rounds, but you do it by beating New York. I'm curious if it's that much sweeter that it comes at the expense of New York rather than some other team.
Oh, for sure. It feels so good because the storyline before, I think all of us in Carolina were like trying to sweep that under the rug and say, let's forget about the regular season, was that New York swept us during the regular season. Mm-hmm. And, obviously just our past and the rivalry there. And so like to give them kind of a taste of their own medicine, like when it counts is, the utmost sweetest feeling ever. So yeah, it's a little better since it's New York, that's for sure.
Obviously, we're rooting for you in the first round of the playoffs, against whomever it winds up being. But if Carolina should lose in the first round, would you say that this experience has been worth it, both for you and the rest of the team, production team, I mean? And then would you say it was worth it for the players if they don't advance past the first round of the playoffs?
Okay, well, we're not going to lose in the first round, so let's
just totally purely hypothetical.
Hypothetically.
No, for sure. I think I think it's the whole experience is new and unique for everybody. But I think Rod is the one who said it about like right before training camp, right? If you gave these guys, you know, if they had 10 opportunities or 10 opportunities to win the Stanley Cup, right? And you just took one of those away. It's not like it's when you look back and you didn't even have the chance to try, like that's not what it's about, right? Like it's so much bigger than that. And then Rod, you know, continues to say like, we're playing for something more right now. Like we're giving people joy. And so I absolutely think it's worth it because, you know, win or lose, no matter how far we go, this last month of just the Canes community and the Raleigh community, North Carolina, South Carolina, like just everyone coming together and being able to not, you know, just kind of put everything else aside for now and just focus on the joy of like hockey and the Canes being back. Like it's just a feeling that has been so uplifting for everybody. And so I absolutely think it's worth it.
Well, congratulations on the win, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for beating New York.
You guys.
And Abby Labar from Fox Sports Carolina, we appreciate you coming on.